By the way, I'm Holly and welcome to my channel. So, there she sits, covered in snow. It'll be a couple months before I can get the marshmallow out of here and back down to the driveway. I can load her up for the next season. But until then, I realized I haven't done a let me turn this around. I realized I haven't done a video about how much the marshmallow cost for me to build out. So I thought I'd walk you through that, and it's kind of a good way too to sort of walk down memory lane of all the build videos I've done. So let's get to it. We'll start at the beginning. My van is a 2001 Ford E350 cutaway van with a Unicel fiberglass body. When I found her, she had recently transferred from being a bakery delivery truck in a suburb of Boston to being in the fleet of a company that cleans out houses, like prior to auction or prior to closing, that sort of thing. They never actually registered it though, because after he purchased it, he realized it was a bit small for their use. I paid $2,000 for her, and she had 290,000 miles on her at the time. She's still running strong. The first thing I did was install a new driver's side mirror. Next was giving her up for the winter so that a professional body shop could replace a cross member just forward of the rear axle. Since I was dropping her off in late fall, I knew I wouldn't be able to park her in my driveway nor get her up to the storage area near my barn once there was snow. The body shop agreed to keep her over the winter, and it made it easier for him knowing there was no rush, and then he could work on it when he didn't have any "I need my car back right now" type of jobs. They also installed the swivel seats I had purchased via Craigslist because they needed to fabricate platforms for the seats. I paid $150 for the seats, and I paid $1,287.50 for the work done by the body shop. Adding in the new side mirror as well, I was now up to a total of $3,503.95. Next up was a few other various necessities to make the van secure and safe. I installed a front-facing and rear-facing camera system since my rear-view mirror was basically useless. I also had to buy an extension for the rear camera feed, and I bought a 5-pack of micro SD cards. The weather stripping around the rear door was old and falling down, so I replaced that with some D-shaped weather stripping. When I bought the van, the owner didn't have the key for the rear door, and I would have thought that I could have just ordered a replacement key from Unicel since the lock had a serial number on it. But Unicel claimed I had to buy a whole new lock. I think it was a scam, but whatever. At one point I needed a new starter, so a trip to O'Reilly's and I got a new windshield wiper, the starter, which my son installed, and a locking gas cap. I also bought new door lock cylinders, which I installed. The reason for this was that at some point it looks like the driver's door was replaced. The two doors had different locks, and the only key I had was for both the ignition and the passenger door. Unlocking the passenger door, then leaning over to unlock the driver's door from inside the van was a real pain, so that needed to be changed before any major trips. With a dog platform I was building for the passenger side, it was just going to be way too difficult to lean over from that side to unlock the driver's door. I changed out both lock cylinders, so now I have one key for both doors and a separate key for the ignition. I like the two-key system way better anyway. The stock radio in the van was crappy at the best of times, so I installed an Android head unit. I also needed a 12-inch antenna extension because the antenna connection was on the far side of the head unit from the antenna, so the original antenna cable didn't reach. I also added a 3-socket 12-volt splitter with 4 USB hubs. Finally, I added vent shades so the windows could be left open when it was raining. All up, these things totaled $761.59, bringing the overall total to my van build of $4,265.54. For the actual build, I of course used a plethora of items: L-track stud fittings, furring strips, foam mylar insulation, Loctite power grab heavy-duty adhesive, paneling, builder's paper, plywood, epoxy, 1-gallon resin kit, wood stain, polyurethane, various screws. And although I do have a list of every item and their cost, I'm not going to list each one here. The total of all of these items, though, was $721.87, bringing the grand total, at this point, to $4,987.41. From here on out, everything else is pretty much personal preference. Equipment you want or don't want, power, water, bed, it all becomes very much individualized. So this build represents what I wanted for my build and how I plan to use my van. I also prioritized what I wanted, or rather what I felt was the most important, can't live without items. So I'll group these items together as we add up my van build cost. First up is the bed. Obviously, when you think about cooking, food storage, power, water, etc., above all else, you need a bed. I could eat out all the time, or use truck stops or fitness centers to shower, but I absolutely needed a bed. After all, isn't the whole purpose of a camper van to not have to pay for hotel rooms or set up a tent every night? So my bed is sort of a jackknife sofa Murphy bed hybrid. I had the old jackknife sofa from my 2005 Trailmanor. This was designed to create a twin bed when it was open, so that the sofa split was lengthwise, head to toe. I remodeled my Trailmanor several years ago, and in that remodel I removed the whole dinette area, which included this jackknife sofa. I pulled the seat and back sections all apart and then cut a section out of the frame. Then my son and a friend had to weld it back together so that it was now the width of a double bed. Now when opened, the split is across the bed, left to right. Then I built a separate Murphy bed section, using the cushions from the other dinette sofa that I had removed from my Trailmanor. Overall, my bed was pretty cheap because of the repurposing of items from my Trailmanor, but I did have to buy a piano hinge and the material to recover the cushions. All that cost $83.14 for a grand total so far of $5,070.55. My next priority was power. I am rather introverted, and I certainly prefer being way out in the country rather than in a city. So I needed power to be able to recharge my phone and camera battery, because I sure didn't want to have to sit in a coffee shop or other public place to charge them each day. And of course a source of light after dark would be great as well. Since I'm not yet living in my van full time, I didn't want to go through the cost of building out a whole electrical system. I just wanted to have enough power for weekend trips, and slowly build that up to week-long or 2-week-long trips, at least for now. For lights, I have lots of fairy lights, which actually provide a surprising amount of light. I have some other small, both USB and solar rechargeable lights as well, but I'm not going to list all of those. Again, it's a matter of personal preference, but I included the cost of the fairy lights because most of them are built in. I started off with just a Jackery 240 watt-hour power supply that I happened to get a really good deal on. Since the build, I've added 2 more portable power units, a Rockpals 250 watt-hour power supply and a Suwaki 150 watt-hour power supply. I've also added a Rockpals 100 watt foldable solar panel. I haven't used that yet, but we'll be testing it out this coming summer. So my power and lighting cost on this build totals $636.26 for a grand total of my van build so far, $5,706.81. Quite honestly, I've camped 2 seasons and only used the Jackery so far, so that amount is really a lot higher than what I needed to spend. But stretching this cost over 2 years, it was a nice way to add more power capability for future trips, while also increasing the amount of portable power that can also be used in my home in the winter during power outages. For water, you can run the gambit, From a simple container of water that you set on a counter and use as a gravity-fed unit from a spigot, to a full freshwater, gray water, black water tank system with hot and cold running water. Again, it's all about what you want. I fall somewhere in the middle. I'm okay without a permanent shower system or hot running water, but I could not do without a toilet. My system consists of a 6-gallon water tank, a Milligore 15 by 18 by 8-inch sink, a telescoping spout faucet, a TMC foot galley pump, a Camco flexible camper drain tap with hose. All this is tied together with 1/2-inch vinyl tubing, held in place with PEX J-hooks, and connected to the faucet and foot pump using ring clamps. I also have a funnel so that I can add water to my freshwater tank without pulling it out from underneath the sink. I have a very old portable toilet that I purchased in 1996 that works just fine. I never have a smell from it, and honestly, for those who feel like these smell, you either aren't using the correct chemicals to charge it, you aren't charging it properly, or a seal is broken somewhere. I really feel these types of toilets are the most practical and economical solution for van life. I added a shower option at the end of last summer, using a foldable swimming pool that's meant for pets, a Kedsum USB rechargeable portable shower pump, and a foldable step stool. The stool is only for if I want to sit in the pool rather than stand. Everything else associated with the shower was recycled, repurposed items that I had around the house. All up, my entire water system cost $332.02, bringing my van bill total to $6,038.83. I do love to cook, but honestly, for my camper build, I prioritized power and water over cooking, mostly because while driving from place to place, buying my meals, whether it was having dinner at a restaurant or stopping at a Quick Mart for a donut and coffee in the morning, was always an option. So was packing fixings for peanut butter sandwiches and canned food for just weekend trips. But in the end, when I made my decisions on equipment for my van build, I went with what was going to make me the most happy overall, and that was having semi-permanent, multiple option cooking equipment. I didn't want to have to pull out a portable stove every time I just wanted to boil water, and I wanted to be able to bake and roast food, not just fry, boil, or saute. So I went with a Camp Chef camp oven, connected to a Manchester 11-pound propane tank using a Kaibo 4-foot propane tank hose adapter. I tie it all down with 1-inch ratchet straps while traveling, but I can easily put it outside on a picnic table if I want to cook outside. I really love my Camp Chef, and I am so glad I have the oven option. All up, this cost me $338, bringing the van build total to $6,376.83. Next up on the priority list was window coverings, despite the fact that my van really doesn't have any, other than in the cab. But I have a huge skylight created by the fiberglass not being painted on the roof, and I wanted to block the light from that, as I found when I went on a trip to New York City, the streetlights really infringed on my ability to be able to get to sleep. I also, of course, wanted to keep the heat buildup at a minimum in the cab and block as much nighttime light leakage out as I could, keeping the van as stealthy as possible. Using Reflectix, 3M Super 77 spray adhesive, foil tape, double folded bias tape, and material, I made all my window coverings. Yes, they are a lot more expensive than just Reflectix and duct tape, but I really wanted a certain feel, as I knew I would probably not have the curtains closed between the cab and the rear of the van all that often. It allows my dog to be comfy on his big passenger seat platform as much as he wants when we are parked in the van. For the curtains between the cab and the body, first I used thermal blackout curtains. I used plastic rings on the thermal curtain, crocheted around them, and sewed them onto the curtain. The thermals and a shower curtain were all hung on sash curtain rods. Finally, to limit the summer bugs, I used pre-made screens to cover the rear door while opened. All the cost of the curtain items totaled $137.90, bringing my total van build cost to this point to $6,514.73. Finally, the lowest priority on my van build was a refrigerator. Remember, my plan for the first several years of this van's camper life was weekend trips, with a few 1-week to 2-week trips thrown in here and there. I have plenty of coolers, and any one of them would have been sufficient. But I ended up getting a pretty good deal on this Alpicool CX30 30-quart portable fridge and added a 12-volt car extension cord since I ended up putting the fridge to the rear of the camper. The placement of the fridge allowed ease in loading food after shopping and better to grab a drink from when I'm hanging out outside the van. My fridge option added $278.54, bringing the final total of my van build to $6,793.27. So all up, under $6,800. I want to be transparent in my total van cost. There are several pricey items right off the start that many of you won't have, such as having to replace a cross member or all the locks I had to buy, but these were part of my van build and a requirement to get the van up to par. But of course, there are a lot of items I didn't have to pay for. I recycled or repurposed so many things I had around the house or in my barn, including 5 full sheets of 3/4-inch plywood that I had purchased back in 2006 to build built-in cabinets and work surfaces in my craft room, but instead I picked up a large L-shaped desk and 2 IKEA wall units, all on the trash loading dock at work, for free. I have totaled everything, and I mean everything, I bought for the Marshmallow's build, to include kitting her out, from every towel to every decoration hanging on the wall. The entire total cost of everything in my van is $7,407.94. Still well below many van builds, and I'm pretty sure they aren't including pots, pans, dishes, towels, sheets, decorations in their cost. Yet that $7,400 does include that, right down to every command hook on the wall and every CR2032 battery in the fairy lights. I hope you enjoyed this video on the breakdown of the cost of my van build. I hope it gives you inspiration. I hope it helps you prioritize what you want in your van build and helps you with your budget. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.